Imagine sitting in a cafe, watching people go by. Each person has a world inside their head, a unique picture of what's real and what matters. But how much of that picture is truly our own? This is a story about that very question, a quiet war for your attention that you might not even know is happening. It's about how our minds work and how that can be gently guided, often without us realizing it. To understand it, we need to go back nearly 100 years to a man named Walter Lippmann. Walter Lippmann was a journalist and thinker who saw something profound about modern society. His core idea is surprisingly simple, yet it explains so much about our world today. He said that the world outside is just too big, too complex, and moves too fast for us to ever understand it fully. We can't possibly know everything about every issue, every country, or every political debate. So, instead of dealing with all that overwhelming complexity, our minds do something clever. They create a simplified version of reality. Lippmann called this simplified version the pseudo-environment. It's a kind of mental model, or a picture in our heads, that stands in for the real world. We don't react to the world itself, he argued. We react to the picture we have inside our heads. You probably recognize that stubborn feeling of being right, that inner certainty that your view is the correct one. It feels solid, doesn't it? That feeling is a clue. It points to a natural tension we all live with, a tug of war inside our own minds. On one side is our instinctive, automatic thinking. It's fast, it's efficient, and it loves to jump to conclusions. It relies on shortcuts and stereotypes to make quick judgments, because that's how we navigate a complex world without getting paralyzed. It's the part of you that forms an opinion in a split second. On the other side is a slower, deeper awareness. This is the part of you that can pause, that can question, that can wonder if there might be more to the story. It's the voice that says, "Wait a minute, let me think about that." This is the part of us that can learn and grow. The tension comes because the fast, instinctive part is so much stronger. It wants to protect its picture of the world because that picture feels safe and familiar. Many of us cling to familiar ideas because they feel like a comfortable old sweater, even if they don't quite fit anymore. Letting go of them means admitting we might have been wrong, and that can be an uncomfortable feeling. Remember when you realized a childhood belief wasn't quite true? Maybe it was about a holiday figure or a simple idea about how the world works. That moment of realization is a perfect example of this deeper awareness breaking through. For a second you saw that the picture in your head didn't match reality. It can be a little unsettling, but it's also a moment of genuine growth. Now think about that on a massive scale. Think about everything you believe about politics, society, or the economy. How many of those beliefs are based on your own deep research and direct experience, and how many were handed to you? How many came from a news segment you half watched, a headline you skimmed, or a conversation you overheard? This is where Lippmann's idea becomes so powerful. He saw that this gap between the complex world and our simple mental pictures is where persuasion happens. If our understanding of big, distant events is built from second-hand information, then whoever provides that information has a huge influence on the picture in our heads. They help engineer what we think the world is like. They help manufacture our consent for policies or ideas by shaping that simplified reality we carry around. We all sometimes fool ourselves into thinking we've figured something out all on our own, when in fact, we've absorbed a pre-packaged story. It's not necessarily about lies. It's often about which facts are highlighted, which stories are told, and which perspectives are repeated until they feel like simple common sense. This process doesn't make us stupid. It makes us human. We are all susceptible to it because our brains are designed to take shortcuts. The first step is simply to recognize that the picture in our head is just that, a picture. It's a useful map, but it is not the actual territory. The real world is always more complicated, more nuanced, and more surprising. The goal isn't to become cynical or to distrust everything. The goal is to become more curious, to gently question our own assumptions, and to wonder about the stories we're told and the stories we tell ourselves. It's about learning to spot the tension between our quick judgments and our slower, deeper understanding, and giving that deeper awareness a little more space to speak. This cracks open a whole new way of seeing the world around you, doesn't it? We start noticing things we used to just accept. It begins with a simple feeling, a sense that the world is pretty straightforward. In this first phase, we see things in black and white. We trust the information that comes from familiar sources. We share opinions that align with our group, and we feel confident in our understanding of how things work. It is a comfortable place to be, where our reactions are quick and feel justified. We know what we like, we know what we dislike, and the path forward seems clear. This is where most of us live, in a state of uncomplicated certainty, before the first questions begin to quietly surface. Then comes the confusing middle, and this is where the journey gets tough. This is the phase Walter Lippmann so brilliantly understood, where the sheer complexity of the modern world becomes overwhelming. The simple pictures we had in our heads start to shatter against a flood of conflicting reports, opposing viewpoints, and complicated problems with no easy answers. You might be someone who resists change at first, clinging to the old simplicity because the new complexity feels like a threat. Most of us feel uneasy during transitions, and this is the mother of all transitions for your mind. It is the uncomfortable realization that for every fact, there seems to be a counterfact. For every expert, an equal and opposite expert. This is the environment where engineered consent thrives, in the fog of our confusion. We start to feel paralyzed, unsure of what to believe or who to trust. It is exhausting, and the easiest thing to do is to retreat back into simplicity, to pick a side and stick to it dogmatically, to stop thinking and just start reacting again. This is the knee-jerk reaction Lippmann warned about, the public's tendency to respond to symbols and stereotypes rather than engage with the difficult, nuanced reality. But if you stick with it, a new clarity begins to emerge from that fog. You may catch yourself pausing before reacting lately, and that pause is everything. This is the thoughtful response that Lippmann contrasted with the knee-jerk reaction. It is not about finding new simple answers, but about developing a new relationship with information itself. We stop looking for a single source to tell us the truth and start piecing it together ourselves, understanding that every narrative has an angle, every message a messenger with intentions. This clarity is not a destination, but a new way of traveling. It is the ability to hold competing ideas in your mind without needing to immediately resolve them. It is listening to a news segment and not just hearing the story, but wondering why this story is being told now, in this way, and what other stories are being left out to make room for it. Your everyday life becomes your classroom. A compelling advertisement is no longer just a pitch for a product, but a case study in emotional manipulation. A politician's speech becomes a lesson in framing and word choice. You begin to see the architecture of persuasion all around you, in the apps you use and the shows you watch. This is the ultimate form of protection, not a shield made of facts, but a built-in radar for influence. It is the understanding that our consent is the most valuable thing we have, and it is worth the effort to be thoughtful about who we give it to and why. Through this discomfort, we begin to realize that the tightness we feel isn't a cage, but the stretching of our own skin, the expansion of our understanding against the confines of what we thought we knew. It's in these raw, tender moments that the most profound shifts occur. not with a dramatic crash, but with a series of small, almost imperceptible cracks in the foundation of our old beliefs. We start to question the narratives we've been telling ourselves, the stories we've accepted as absolute truth simply because they were familiar. This questioning isn't a sign of failure. It's the first, courageous step toward a more authentic way of being. We learn to sit with the unease, to listen to its whispers, instead of rushing to silence it with distractions or old habits. We discover that this discomfort is a form of intelligence, an internal compass recalibrating itself to point toward true north, toward a version of ourselves that is more integrated and whole. This process of recalibration changes how we move through the world. You'll likely find daily decisions coming easier, not because life gets simpler, but because your internal reference point has shifted. The noise of external opinions and societal expectations begins to fade into the background, like a radio station turning to static, allowing the clearer signal of your own intuition to come through. That constant, low-grade anxiety about choosing the right thing starts to dissipate because the definition of right transforms. It becomes less about achieving a perfect outcome dictated by some invisible rule book, and more about making choices that feel aligned, that resonate with a deeper sense of integrity. It's the difference between following a map drawn by someone else and learning to navigate by the stars you've come to know for yourself. We begin to notice subtle changes in our reactions to the world around us. Many notice old frustrations don't bother them as much. The driver who cuts us off, the long line at the grocery store, the minor technological glitch that used to ruin an entire morning. These events lose their emotional charge. They become what they always were: neutral events, not personal attacks or cosmic injustices. This isn't about suppressing annoyance or pretending to be perpetually serene. It's a genuine unraveling of the knot inside that tied our sense of peace to external circumstances behaving exactly as we demanded. We untie that knot thread by thread, and in doing so, we reclaim a fundamental power we had given away. The power to determine our own inner weather, regardless of the storms or sunshine happening outside. This newfound space within ourselves allows for a different quality of listening, both to others and to the quiet voice of our own inner wisdom. Conversations become less about waiting for our turn to speak and more about truly hearing. We become curious about perspectives that differ from our own, not as threats to be debated, but as pieces of a larger, more complex human puzzle we are all trying to understand. This shift is deeply relational. It changes the fabric of our connections with others. We stop trying to fit people into the boxes we have labeled for them and start seeing them as they are, in all their flawed and beautiful humanity. This acceptance of others is a direct reflection of the acceptance we are cultivating for ourselves, for all the parts we once tried to hide or disown. As we continue on this path, the pieces of our life start to fit together in a way that feels less forced and more organic. The compartmentalization that had us acting one way at work, another at home, and another still when we were alone, begins to dissolve. We move toward a sense of coherence, where our actions, values, and words start to emanate from the same core. This integrity is felt physically as a release of tension, a letting go of the exhausting performance of being who we thought we were supposed to be. Life begins to flow with more grace, not because challenges cease, but because we are no longer fighting ourselves in the midst of them. We are meeting each moment with a more complete toolkit, one built on self-awareness and compassion, rather than reaction and defense. This journey inward inevitably leads us to re-examine the very concepts we thought were fixed, including the idea of freedom itself. We might have once believed freedom was a destination, a final state of arrival where all constraints vanished. We chased it in external achievements, in geographic changes, in the accumulation of possessions or status. only to find the goalpost always moved just a little further away. The liberation we are discovering is of a different nature altogether. It's not about the absence of limitation, but about the conscious relationship we have with the limitations that do exist. It's the freedom that comes from choosing our responses, from authoring our own story, even when the chapters are difficult. It is an internal condition, a way of seeing and being that can be cultivated anywhere, under any circumstance. This is the profound and humanizing insight that Walter Lippmann pointed toward when he suggested that real freedom feels like finally taking off shoes that never quite fit. For so long, we've been walking through life in ill-fitting footwear, accepting the pinches and blisters as an inevitable part of the journey. We assumed the problem was with our feet, that we needed to tough it out or walk differently. We didn't realize we could simply take the shoes off. Together, we discovered that the shoes were never mandatory. They were just a pair we had been given a long time ago and had never thought to question. The relief of stepping into our own natural stride, of feeling the solid ground of our own truth beneath our feet, is the essence of the freedom we've been seeking all along. It is a homecoming to ourselves, and it is from this place of grounded authenticity that we can truly begin to engage with the world, not as weary travelers, but as whole and resilient human beings, ready to walk our own path.